It's kind of blurry. That's better.
Okay, what's up? Hey everyone, my name is Chelsea, or your friend Chelly. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel for the very first time. Am I a YouTuber now? Because I said that term, am I like a YouTuber now? I'm so glad you're here, not only watching this video, but here on this earth. You're valuable, you are so loved, and you're worthy of everything that you deserve, that you want. Unless it's crazy and ends the world or something. I've been watching a little too many Marvel movies. But anyway, welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some embroidery vocabulary words. When I first started embroidering, I went on like Facebook and joined some groups, and there you can like type all your questions and someone would get back to you, and they were awesome about that. But everyone who would like respond to me would mention these terms that I never heard of. They'd be like, oh, all you need to do is change the blah 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 blah, and I'm like, what does blah 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 mean? I want to share with you all of these terms so that in future videos you can understand what I'm talking about, or if someone gives you advice about embroidery, you could be like, my friend Chelly told me about that. So without further ado, we're going to get started in this video, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the chat box. We're not on Zoom. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comments or DM me on Instagram at threadtheline, THRETHE. Oh my gosh. My brain's like, let's go, bud. You can follow me on Instagram at THREADTHELINE. DM me there if you have questions about embroidery. But other than that, we're gonna get started. So let's do this. I'm so excited, actually. So the first term that we're going to talk about is an embroidery hoop or an embroidery frame. Like, this is the part that slides onto your machine and then a latch clips it down. Or this one, this goes onto the machine and it pushes down into like a little locked position, basically. Embroidery hoops are very simple. As you can imagine, you see this little twisty thing. You're just going to twist it away from you, and then the top piece comes out. So now you have two pieces, and what you would do is sandwich this between the item that you're threading and then tighten it back up again. For my purposes, I normally use sweatshirts. That's the main thing that I embroider. What I do is slide this piece under the sweatshirt and get it centered how I want it, and then I'll put the top piece on, smush it, tighten it. We're ready to go on the machine. I brought this one out to show you. This again goes for this machine. As you can see, it has like little bars on the top right here. This is awesome technology that Brother has created. The purpose of it is I have an app on my phone where I can just scan what's in my frame. So if I already have this on a sweatshirt, I can scan the little bars and then upload it to my machine so I can like perfectly center my designs and things like that. Or you can embroider around something. If you know what's on there, you can like embroider around it. It's the coolest thing, but that's the little difference between this one and this one. Our next term is bobbin. Bobbin is the thing that goes into the bottom of the machine and catches the thread. If you think about it, you have your top thread that goes through the needle and it goes into your item, right? How does it stay? Your bobbin goes under and it catches each thread, hooks onto it, and makes it so your threads stay in the sweatshirt. This is the case of bobbin that I purchased when I first started, and now I wind my own and I can show you guys how to do that. This is an empty bobbin spool. This is one that's wound. You just pop this down into the bottom of your machine, and then it has its own way you thread it, and then you leave it alone. Your machine will tell you when your bobbin is getting empty, but I always just check before I start a project to make sure I kind of have enough. Bobbin can be tricky. Depending on the density of your design, your bobbin color might show through the top of your design, and so instead of seeing your top thread color, you end up seeing the bobbin, and that's no fun at all. What I like to do is, if I have designs like that and I think that I designed it really well and it should have no problems, what I'll do is thread a spool of bobbin that matches the top thread color. So even if the bobbin shows through, it matches. Like I said, you can buy pre-round bobbins. I bought this case on Amazon, probably like $8 or $10, super easy. But from now on, I've just been threading my own bobbin, especially because I mainly use white. If you have something that's embroidered, turn it to the back where you can see the inside, and most of the time there's like white on there. That's the bobbin thread. It makes its own pattern to make sure all the threads stay in place. That's pretty much all I have to say about bobbin. Now, the next term I'm going to talk about is called floating. Floating is a technique that helps you embroider. Okay, well guys, when I first got my machine, I took like some of my nephew's little like undershirts and stuff and like practice on my first machine. And I could not figure out why the t-shirt was stitching to itself. I understood the hoop. I knew that the t-shirt had to go in between the hoop. No problems. I got that, right? But then when I take it off the hoop, the t-shirt is sewn to itself and I had to cut the t-shirt out to get it off the hoop. And I was like, dang, why does this keep happening to me? So I go to my little Facebook group chat and I'm like asking them and they're like, oh, you've got to float it. And I said, what the heck does that mean? Floating is basically where you have to understand that your machine cannot decide, oh, I'm gonna go through one layer with this needle, but not all the layers. It doesn't work like that. So what you have to do is if you have a sweatshirt, like I said, I do mostly sweatshirts, you're gonna take the back of the sweatshirt up so that the only thing that is flat on the machine is what you want to be stitched. It's so simple, but it will save you a lot of time. I do have some problems with floating because oftentimes the sweatshirt will kind of like fold back on into your embroidery area, and I've had some problems like with the sweatshirt stitching onto itself, things like that. Floating, I guess the best way to kind of also explain floating is with tote bags. If you had a tote bag, you don't want it to go through the entire tote bag and it gets stitched to itself, the bag is rendered useless. Okay, what I normally do is take some stabilizer, hoop it by itself, and take this temporary spray adhesive, spray it on there, and then lay my tote bag on there flat, okay? Complicated, but it saves you so much time and it makes your designs amazing because you can actually use them. So that's floating. Next, we're going to talk about stabilizer. When I first started, I didn't really understand the point of stabilizer. I was like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But when I tell you, it makes a big difference. If you've ever tried to embroider something without stabilizer, you probably know what I mean. There are tons of different kinds, but the purpose of stabilizer is to go on your project to make it so when you're on the machine and the machine's moving and stitching at the same time, this stabilizes it, keeps it still so your fabric's not moving all over the place. That might not make sense until you start doing it, but stabilizer is so important. This is what it looks like. I get mine at the sewing store. If you saw my last video, I mentioned I go to the sewing store. If you saw my last video, you saw that I go to the sewing store to get this stabilizer. It's pretty costly, but you can also get it on Amazon. So mine just comes on a roll like this, and it's kind of like a dryer sheet mixed with a paper towel, if you can think of that kind of consistency. But I just cut off a piece that will fit my design, and once my sweatshirt is on the machine and floated, I'll just stick this right under, and it makes it so much easier. I used to hoop my stabilizer with the sweatshirt, which means I would like layer this under the sweatshirt and then try to make sure that it was perfectly on the hoop. And it took me like, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but like 3 to 5 minutes per sweatshirt to try to do this. So now instead I just slide it under there. This is a tear thin wash away stabilizer, which means that when you're done embroidering it, you just rip it off. You rip it off the back of your design. When your consumer gets it after they wash it, it'll be gone. You can also use stabilizers that are called toppers. They're a bit thinner material, more like saran wrap, if you will. I use them specifically for towels, Sherpa kind of material, so your stitches don't get lost in that like more fuzzy fabric, you know? I love washaway stabilizer, especially for something that you're gonna see both sides of, because if you have a towel that's monogrammed, you don't want to flip it over and you see this like white stuff on the back. But stabilizer is so important, and it's pretty easy to just add it to your project and it'll save you a lot of headache. One thing I want to point out, I think everyone knows what thread is. I wanted to show you guys different types of thread. So this thread is polyester. As you can see, it's pretty shiny. This one is cotton. It's not as shiny, but you can kind of like see the color really well. And I just wanted to explain that there are different types of thread if you're out there looking. This brand I really love. I got this in like a pack of like 25 when I first started, and I just got this one like 2 weeks ago. I wanted to try the cotton. So far so good. I think I like the way that the polyester looks better, but some of the polyester ones that I've gotten are like really thin and they don't work really well for me. So it's just kind of a hit or miss, so that's why I just go to the sewing store. But the sewing stores, they digging in my pockets lately, okay? And I'm not for that, so. One of the last things I'm going to talk about is digitizing. I did not understand this, okay? Digitizing is a way for your machine to understand what it's stitching. Once you do that, your machine will totally just run with it and do exactly what you've told it to do. However, you have to tell it what to do. I originally thought that I'd just like draw designs on my iPad and figure out a way to like just put them on my machine. My biggest thing was like, how do I get it on a flash drive if I'm using an iPad? What I had to do was buy digitizing software, which means I can go into my software from Embroidery. I have Stitch Artist level 1 and 2 if you guys want to look into it, and I go in and create my own designs. There you can add text, and that text is made in stitches. You can change the stitch properties. You can change the littlest of details or really big details to create your design. From there, that's what I upload to my machine. Machines take files like PES, that's the only one I use, JFT, there's like literally 10 different ones. It's a file that is made that your machine understands. It's just not something you can draw up and just put it in there. And yes, I asked the question, is there a way to just like scan a picture and put it in the machine? So digitizing is another step in the process, but honestly I've grown to really enjoy it because you have full freedom to create your own designs. Now, another way that you can get out of digitizing is to buy your designs. There's a website called Dakota that you can buy designs from. From what I've seen and heard, their designs are impeccable. You can also buy designs on Etsy. The only thing I caution you with that is make sure that you read the shop's terms because it's possible that you can't sell those designs. I also bought fonts on Etsy that I love. You can do things like that to get out of digitizing. I had to buy an iMac because the only device that I had was an iPad and it wasn't working, so I came out another $1,200 for an iMac and then another $150 for the software. And so those are just things to consider that I felt like I was like almost pigeonholed into because I didn't know this stuff ahead of time. Honestly, I have a few people who just like DM me on Instagram or like, hey, do you need help digitizing something? And I'm like, I'm fine. But you can find people like that on Instagram and Etsy. So there's definitely options, but digitizing is something that I want to go really in depth with, so be on the lookout for a video about that because it's not something I could just explain in 2 minutes. So that's literally it for this video. I just wanted to explain these terms to you. In the description box below, you can find the Facebook group chats that I'm in that are a huge help. They answer so fast, and there's so many people there in different age ranges and different walks with embroidery that can give you some really valuable insight or just get some inspiration from people in your field is honestly really awesome. So I'll link those in the description box as well as my embroidery software, the stabilizer I like, the thread I like, and the bobbin case that I originally got when I first started. In the future, you will see a video from me of what I got to start my embroidery business. And you'll see some of these items repeated. However, I do think it's important just to like give you an idea of like a starting point with embroidery and where it will kind of lead you. So you can look out for that video, as well as a video of me explaining digitizing in more depth and showing you my software. You guys, if you have any questions at all, please, please, please let me know. It's my pleasure just to be here for you and help you in this journey, because I know it can be kind of strange, but also really, really fun. So but again, I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and may the Lord bless you and keep you in everything that you do. Cut off. How do you cut this off?